Good afternoon. Here we are.
Finally.
Has the fourth been with you? Finally. Karen and I have been looking for each other out in the ether, trying to connect, and we finally did.
We made it.
Today,
it was meant to be.
It was meant to be. Like, we got there in the end. That's the main thing. Today, I'm joined by Karen Scrimshaw, who is just one of the most creative people I've ever not met, because we've never actually met in person. Karen, thanks for joining me. Not yet.
My pleasure.
That's the important bit, isn't it? Not yet. It is to come. Well, you're in Queensland. I'm in Queensland. I feel that we can make this happen.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
What do you reckon? Let's have a go. Now, one of the things that we ask people when they apply to come on this amazing show that I'm sure will be up for an Emmy and maybe even a Logie at some stage in its history is your creativity and the things that the outlets that you have that help you express yourself. Has that always been something that you've used, or you've only realised it as you've gotten older?
No, it's for me. I've always been creative. I remember when I was even the very beginning of primary school. All I was interested in was art. It was just my way of creating a world, I suppose. I was an only child, so I spent a lot of time drawing on my own at home, and I could create all these characters, because originally I wanted to be an animator. So it was an outlet, and it was almost company, I suppose. That sounds a bit sad, but
I feel like I need to find a tissue. Hang on, I've got my toilet paper. I'm so dedicated to my job, I don't leave my seat.
But yeah, I've always been creative, and it's funny. I never used to see it that way. Creativity was almost like something that people did whilst they were looking for their real job or their real career. To me,
real job.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, to actually be able to make a career out of being creative is actually, I feel really privileged, and it's very lucky. It's something that I've always been very grateful for, is the fact that I had the opportunity when so many people don't, and especially coming from a background where I don't have any formal training as well. It was just, it's just part of who I am. And actually, it took a long time to actually come to terms with that as well, because and even now, still I sort of, especially in times like these, and you see people around, they're nurses and doctors and scientists, and you sort of think, they're really bringing something to the world and helping people, and, in a very, very tangible way. And I suppose I've always had that sort of little element in me that the creative is that, just off in their own world and creating pretty things. And
the airy fairy.
That's it. And it's come to terms with the fact that there is something in that too for humans, as opposed to just, pretty things. So,
well, I'm in a Facebook group. I'm in so many Facebook groups I can't keep up. But I'm in a Facebook group for comedians, and someone asked the question today, is stand-up comedy an art form? And I thought about it, and I went, after you got through all the smart-ass answers from the comedians, be serious, children. And I thought, yes, it is. And being able to create art is, I think, almost the ultimate way to give, to add value to other people's lives. What do you think?
I think that's exactly right. I think it's the value that it brings. It's interesting you should say that about stand-up as well, because it's funny. I think stand-up's one of those things that not everyone's going to get it. You're putting yourself out there, as all creatives do. When you create something, you put it out there. But I mean, literally with stand-up, it's like singing. You're standing there in front of people, and you're really getting their reaction as you stand there. And especially with comedy, a lot of people don't get it. There'll be some people that don't get your sense of humor, and art's like that. You create something. Not everyone's going to like it. Not everyone's going to agree with you or think it's valid, but it's having the courage, I suppose, to go out and even get people talking like that. Actually get people talking about what they do, or why don't you like it? It's an interesting, I think any of those conversations that come from people's creativity really do bring value to people.
I think so. I mean, because we don't all like the same things.
No.
And which would be a really boring place if we did, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, that's how we build our personalities.
Absolutely. But by liking different things and liking different types of art is it the viewer or the listeners, the receiver's interpretation of that gives it more meaning or takes away the meaning of what it is that you're sharing?
Yeah, I think I've only ever created things, I suppose. It's a little bit different. I'm a jeweler, and I've made jewelry that people have made designs for, and I don't particularly like it. But when I create for myself or create something, it's always something I like. But it's interesting with social media. I've found that when I put something out there, I do have a need for people to like what I do.
Please me.
Yeah. And I was like, please.
We need the tissues again.
Maybe it's the only child in me. But
please, I need
value.
you to like me.
It's like, I promise I'm not just showing off. I want you to enjoy this. It's like that justification, I suppose. But I mean, I find I get a huge amount of enjoyment from creating and seeing a finished piece. Like, it makes me, it's a huge amount of like, especially when you're a jeweler and you create something and then you give it to the person that you've made it for and you get to see their reaction. That's amazing. And that's not something a lot of creatives get to do. To actually get a tangible feedback in that way. But yeah, I definitely, for me personally, I always enjoy what I do, even if nothing. I don't think anything I've ever created has been perfect.
What is perfect?
Yeah, I know. That's one of my bugbears is perfection.
There's no such thing. People are conning themselves.
Yeah, it's good to have standards, but yeah.
Yeah. But isn't there a difference though between having standards and doing the best that you can to having something unattainable as perfection? Because I don't think there's anything that's perfect in the universe. And I tell you what, Stephen Hawking would have agreed with me.
Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree.
Is there a particular type of medium that you like to work in more than others that gives you a bigger thrill and a bigger sense of satisfaction?
Probably the thing that I love the most is CAD. I design a lot on computer, and because it's in 3 dimensions, you can really think your way around an item. You can, like, for me, for jewelry, you can really think about movement, and you can actually generate a finished or an image of a finished item as well. There's a huge amount of satisfaction in that, because you can actually see the finished object before you actually make it, which is, which gives you a chance. It's like a playground. It's like a sand pit, and you can make changes and then go and see what it looks like again. And it's funny, whenever I design anything, I start off with one idea and end up with something else. I never sort of have it's always sort of organic and moves, and and then a lot of the time I'm like, oh my God, like, it's more like a journey as opposed to there's no destination, or at least the destination is never what you set out to be, which I think is great as well. I love that.
That's cool. Well, you can be more creative, isn't it? If you don't put boundaries on what you're doing, if you fuck up, then it's like, how can I change this?
Or you do something and it's like, oh, that's really weird. Like, I love it.
So
your strange effect that'll come out.
Yeah, it's like, oh, wow, I didn't intend that, but I'm going to totally own it.
Little endorphins all ping away.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is that you're not just an artist, you're a geeky artist. Like,
yeah, I love it.
Like, that's not something that I would have ever have put, like tech geek and artist, because to me it's almost like 2 different tracks of your brain. One side, maybe. The techie, and
I've always loved computers, and I don't know why they appeal to me. They don't appeal for me, like, I'm not a coder and I'm not, the internet's great and all the rest of it, but there's just something about the possibilities in virtual world that are just so amazing. When you see there's a program called ZBrush or ZBrush, depending on where you're from, and the things that people create in there, it's like you can really sort of extract your brain in 3 dimensions and put these things into computers and just tell such a story. Computers are just amazing for that. I don't think there's other mediums you can do it in. You can, people work in clay, and which is what ZBrush is effectively. It's like digital clay, but it's it's just so exciting. The possibilities with computers are exciting. 3D printing as well are just, you can print off an item now, instead of actually forging it, you print it off, which maybe sounds slightly less romantic, but to me that's really exciting, that I can marry these technical aspects and actually create something beautiful from technology. And
it's really cool.
It's the jewelry industry's really changed in that way. In the time that I've been a jeweler for 22 years, and it's you sort of really start off at that workshop at the coalface, almost literally. You're black and you're just you're sawing away and you're banging with a hammer and all that kind of thing. And then as it changed, and you start to learn to design on computer and things like that, and then you still use these skills, the original skills that you had to create from what you've done on the computer. But it's like an extra universe that opens up to you of possibilities. It's just absolutely wonderful.
Now, you just said that you're all black and you're banging with a hammer. What the hell are you doing to that jewelry?
Yeah, the jewelry industry is not as glamorous as I think. What you see in the stores, that's not the
thinking little fairies.
That's the face. Yeah, no.
Filigrees. And...
Yeah, no, I've got a picture of me somewhere that somebody took at me, and I'm absolutely covered in polishing compound, just uniformly absolutely filthy, just covered. Very, very dirty industry. If you're at the bench, there's not a whole lot of glamour, I'm afraid.
Doesn't sound glamour. You've just totally ruined it for me.
There's a lot of filth. There's a lot of cutting your fingers, burning yourself.
So you've got a piece on. Is that something that you've made?
Yeah. So this is.
You're showing me your boobs.
Yes, I know. I'm trying to be. So it's
it looks like a shell.
So this is one of my pieces that I designed on computer and 3D printed. So I just, sort of when you think of 3D printing and computers, everyone thinks, I think, quite blocky, and, you sort of things like buildings and, sort of hard forms, whereas you can actually go really, really organic and like just create such beautiful things. So, so this is my it's my leaning. I love the organic, the feminine, those sort of beautiful, all the movement. It's as much about movement for me as it is about painting a still picture. Because this one rolls and you can see the light shining off of it and the textures. So it's, it's very, very three-dimensional to me.
So what do you think
jewelry to me?
Everybody has the ability to be creative on some level? Or, I've met people who go, I don't have a creative bone in my body. Surely we can all be creative in some way. Yeah,
of course. I think it comes down a lot to what you believe you can do, I think. And that's something I've learned a huge in the past sort of 5 years. I think the stories that we tell ourselves of what we can or can't do are so limiting. I think everybody, and there's so many forms of being creative. You can write, you can draw, you can sing, you can do all these things. And even if you're not particularly, just say you love to sing, but you're never going to be on The Voice. What does it matter if you're still creating and bringing joy and to yourself? And other people enjoy watching you enjoy yourself. That's one of the things I love about karaoke, incidentally.
I don't mind a bit of karaoke. We could sing a song now.
Oh my God!
What's your favourite karaoke song?
Favourite. I used to love Alanis Morissette back in the day.
Isn't it ironic?
Oh, yeah, that was one of them. But I love a bit of Adele.
I kind of stick to the lower register. Islands in the Stream.
Oh, yeah.
I've had a crack at Bruce is Born to Run, but I just murder it. Murder. How do you say murder in Scottish? Murder.
There's been a murder, yeah.
There's been a murder. I love it. That's awesome. Okay, now we're just being silly, Annette. Stop it.
Yeah.
So when you say that you love comedy, does this mean you do stand-up?
No, I'd love to. That's my thing that I would actually really love to try. And I'm just,
Ooh.
it's, yeah, I know. I listen to a lot of comedy. That's what I listen to all the time. Podcasts. I just that's how I live. I've always said my sense of humor is 75% of my personality. It doesn't matter what's really happening in my life. I'm always the one making the jokes and sort of trying to see the bright side, and sort of. And I like that banter between people as well, when you can really sort of get going and you're firing back and forwards, and it just your brain's just zinging, and it's just all come back. It's really exhilarating. And I really, I love it when people get up and have the courage to stand and do that. I don't think I could. Like I'd love to. I would definitely give it a go.
Yeah, look, I did it. 2017, I did a course with Fiona McGarry, who's based in Southeast Queensland. She's a comedian. Here I am giving her a plug. This is not a sponsored program, but it was such an amazing. It was such an amazing period in my life, because I was like you. It's like, oh, I'd love to give that a crack. People always tell me I'm funny. I like that zing that you were talking about, and I did that. And one of the and when you finish it, your graduation is doing an open mic spot at the Sit Down Comedy Club in Paddington, like where there's been amazeballs comedians. But yeah, it is very much like taking your clothes off and standing naked in front of people that you don't know, who probably will never want to look at you ever again because they've been seen you naked. It's like, oh my God, I can't unsee that.
One of the things sort of I'm in my 40s now, and I used to be like, believe it or not, when I was very young, I never spoke. I was so quiet, so shy. And as I've gotten older, and you sort of your courage sort of builds as you move through life. But then you think you get to a point, or at least I certainly did. You get to a point where you realise you don't really care what other people think. You know what I mean? It's like it becomes more important for you to do the thing that you want to do than it does the reaction that you would potentially get from people. I don't know if it's that life's too short kind of mentality, or it's just so important to just explore these options that you have, and the feedback that you get becomes less important. I'm not saying that it's obviously it's still great to get good feedback, and I think we all obviously crave that, but like I say, I think we get a lot more braver about the thought of putting our toe in those different oceans that we actually give this stuff a go.
Absolutely, I agree with you. And look, and I sometimes don't think that it has anything to do with age. I think it's a decision that you make regardless of what age you're at, where you go, you know what? Why am I letting all of this stuff hold me back? I'm just going to go and do it. Let's just
it's that
do
moment.
it.
I think, you sort of have this sort of realization, just this aha moment, and you think, well, why am I letting these people determine what I'm doing, when at the end of the day I don't really care what they think, because I don't know, I think when you're younger though, you do tend to be very worried about what your peer group are going to say, or like, oh my God, I can't believe she did that, we're very, very sort of held down by that kind of talk, but yeah, I think it's one of the glorious things about living longer, or experiencing more, or being older, or whatever that is. There's that sort of is sort of shedding those chains that we have that attach us so much to other people, even though they always will. They'd always be there.
Yeah, of course. I mean, like when you're younger and you say, like I remember saying it in my 20s, I don't care what people think, that's their problem. And it came from a place of arrogance, which having, having teenage children,
well.
I remember that arrogance. You think you know everything.
Yeah.
But as you get older, you come from a place of, you know what, I don't care what other people think, because ultimately it's up to me being happy.
Yeah, and I think it's about being at peace as well with who you are on the inside, like being, sort of examine your motives. Your motives are good, it's not like you're planning to go out there and like take over the world in a terrible way or something like
murder.
It's just murder. Yeah, but I think it's like when you just when you can just relax with yourself and just let the world happen around you almost. But as long as you're sort of at a reasonable peace and have an understanding of your own, sort of wants and loves and the things that you find funny, and that sort of, I can't think of the word, self-consciousness just goes away.
Absolutely.
But
so when you think about, the life and the universe and everything, do you believe that we've got ultimate control on how we experience our lives?
I do. I believe this is a big one for me, and this has come up sort of a lot for me in the past 12 months, is that factor of choice. We can't choose what happens to us, but we can choose how we react. Whether it's good or bad, whether good or bad things happen to us, it depends on I'd say it's like the eyes that you see it through. And the way that you process things in your brain. You can take a terribly negative experience and take the good aspects or the lessons, or you can really, nothing is truly bad. I don't think anything that ever happens is truly bad, and then there's probably things that aren't truly always amazing either. But choice is definitely a very, very important thing to remember. I think it's a very if somebody says something to you and you don't like it, and you just hang on to that, that's your choice. You're choosing to hang on to that, or you choose to analyze it. Do you want to let it go? Do you want to, it's such it's something that's so much under your control. And I think that's wonderful. It's such a great moment when you realize that you have the choice to control these things. It's, like I lost someone very close to me 6 months ago, and it was one of those moments. It was really interesting, and I remember at the time thinking, this is really interesting. I'm not behaving in the way that I thought I would behave in a situation like this, and all these things that were coming at me that were not very, they were sort of very hard to deal with. I was actually choosing to be like, no, okay, this needs to be done. I was choosing, take all the sad thoughts and then flip them over to the happy memories, sort of change from that loss of, losing my best friend to being grateful that he'd ever been there at all. Like it's all these aspects of choice, all these elements. And it's strange. I also think, like, if that had been 20 years ago, I would have reacted completely differently. But again, because I sort of had, other experiences in that in the meantime, or, life sort of moved on. It's interesting. I actually found it was really stressful. I've got a wee tear.
Oh.
It's, it was interesting how I behaved. And it was all based on the fact that I had that realization about choice. I could choose to dissolve and, and just let things fall apart. But I chose it to be, to make it into something that was like a real sort of celebration, I suppose, and the fact that I'd ever actually been lucky enough to know the person, and have him in my life. It was, it's been an interesting 6 months, the past 6 months.
Absolutely. I can just tell by your face what an impact that moment had on you. And it's one of my favorite sayings is, it is what it is, because, life happens to us and things happen to us. And I'm a big believer, some of those things are out of our control, but what we can control is how we respond to them. And that's exactly what you've articulated, is that you could have taken it as such a horrible experience and wallowed in it, but you chose to look at it from a gratitude point of view. And, I think that's a really big thing for us as humans to do, is that shit's going to happen. Bad things are going to happen to us, but it's how we deal with that is what separates us from, someone who can sit there with such a beautiful smile on their face and share so openly. So I really appreciate, thank you.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's the real sliding doors moment as well, and I'm a big believer in that. You know, because like some things, when I was younger, before I came to Australia, I was engaged to a chap who was, again, we've been very, very close since we were very young, and we've been friends for the majority of that time. All of our friends we were all mutual friends as well, which was wonderful at the time. But we broke up, and at the time it was just the most devastating thing that had ever happened to me. It was just awful, and I just remember thinking, what now? You know, like I'd just given all this life, all this energy into this relationship, and all of a sudden it's gone. It was for nothing, you know. But it was interesting because it took that event for me to move to Australia. And now I look back and I think, oh my God, thank God that moment happened. You know, at the time it was just absolutely earth-shattering and devastating. But now I look back and I can see the benefits that have come from it. It's a bit different with what happened, obviously. So, you know, when my friend passed away 6 months ago, I'm not going to ever look back on that and think, oh, thank God.
Yeah, it's didn't really like him anyway.
Yeah. But it is one of those moments. It's one of those moments that really makes you take stock and look at the direction that you're going in. And I think no matter what you do, whether you're, you know, a creative person, whether you're analytical, you know, I think sometimes those checks come along and it's a real opportunity to really look at where you're going. You know, look at that direction and think, is this what, you know, this is, because now I'm seeing the world almost through different eyes. You know, it's sort of like, is this actually a direction that I'm meant to spend my life following? And for me, yeah, I came to Australia, and it was actually the thing as well that triggered me getting to follow my creative path. I'm not sure I would have been able to do that as well where I was living previously, but it's interesting times at the moment as well with everything that's going on in the world. Is this one of those moments for people? Maybe slightly on a, like, depending on how you've been affected, of course. Is this one of the things where we're going to come out of this situation with new eyes and look at it with...
Be interesting when we look back in 6 months, 12 months time and think, you know, like for me, like I lost all my clients, you know, our business lost all PR clients. And it was like, at the time, it was like, what the... Like, how am I going to recover from that? And a few weeks later, looking back, and I'm going, actually, that was just what I needed to reassess where I'm going forward. And I know for you that the value of remembering to keep your own dreams and well-being in the forefront of your mind is important. So those negative experiences that you've had, that I've had, takes us towards those new experiences, doesn't it? So, although it doesn't feel like it at the time.
No, it doesn't.
It's kind of like going...
feel like that at all. No. But I think that's something as well. It's something to really take on board, because when you are going through something, it's just, you think, oh my God, how am I ever going to get through this? But we always do. You know, for the most part, we generally do. You know, I think anyone could probably look back on their life and think of certain moments where they were just felt like they'd hit a brick wall, or, you know, saw, oh, this, you know, will the sadness ever end? Will my career ever pick up? All these moments. And it's we keep going and we keep evolving, and it's, I think it's something that's hard to actually remember it in the moment, but if you can just bring that to the forefront of your mind, it's quite empowering. Just to think, it's, you know, like that saying, this too shall pass. It's okay, you know, you take the lessons. It's a real chance to actually look at what you really want and learn a lot about yourself, I think.
And that's why I say I've even got it as a magnet. It is what it is. Like, where can I find the silver lining in this? Or how can I make lemonade out of lemons? So in terms of your artwork, taking all of these experiences that you've had in your life, your creativity is more than just making, you know, beautiful things to hang around your neck or your ears or putting around your wrist. It has a really positive impact on the community that you've created, doesn't it?
Yeah. I think it's something like creativity when it's something that brings people together, regardless. It's something that sort of promotes discussion. It's something that people enjoy your artwork. Like it was actually wonderful. I put that time lapse of me drawing a cat on the Facebook group the other day, and just seeing everybody's reaction was wonderful to that. And it's like, creativity is something that brings people together. I think it's something that everyone has an opinion on. Whether they think something's good or bad, or is it creative? Is it not creative? Is it this? What's the point of that?
What drugs were they smoking when they did that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Did you get hit in the head?
Yeah, and it's funny. I've often struggled with the idea of jewelry. Jewelry seems like something that's quite almost sort of superficial in certain sense. It's like it's not saving any lives, and it's not doing any of these things, but actually it's something that I think as humans, it's very inbuilt in us to want to decorate ourselves. We use jewelry for all sorts of different things, for self-expression, like historically it was like tribalism and belonging, being in a group, or acceptance, or engagement rings, like that's the ultimate form of like somebody loves me. And it's like jewelry has like a really important part to play, I think, and I didn't used to see it that way. But I'm lucky that I can create that jewelry and then other works of art as well. Like I actually really enjoy just drawing for the sake of it, like because that's something I never intend to make a career out of. It's just something that I do for myself. So yeah,
isn't it great? We live in a time where we have so many opportunities to share our skills and our talents through social media and YouTube, which is social media, and all of these platforms. Whereas, 20 years ago, you may have just still been covered in soot and polishing and been that frustrated artist going, why can't people see my worth?
Yeah. I think it's one thing I do think, like you say, like social media is wonderful for getting out there and that, but I think sometimes I worry that it puts people off. You see these sort of extremes of people that are just so good at something, and you think, oh God, why bother? This person has, people lose sight of what creativity is. I think, it's like creativity for, just the sake of it, for enjoyment, for escape, or for just like self-love. Just taking some time out and just literally create something beautiful that you can look back on and be, proud of, regardless of what it is. But people see these amazing, it's like when you see anybody on social media, you see people doing yoga and you think, oh my God, like how did they, you think, I could never do that. Why would I even start? So
doesn't that hurt?
Oh dear, there was this one pose, and I think of it all the time. I'd love to do yoga, but I just have this image in my head, and I think, oh my God. But I think that's one of the things with creativity as well, is that it doesn't have to be an amazing, wonderful piece of artwork or anything, whatever that novel or anything, film, doesn't have to be all these amazing things at the end. It's more about self-expression, and so learning about yourself, learning how your brain works, and it's a nice, put out on paper, you can get feedback if you want, but you don't have to either. You can do something you can do entirely for yourself. And I think people do get a bit lost in sort of expecting themselves to be just amazing, and if they're not, they're just not good enough.
Well, we are here this afternoon on Obsessed With to encourage you to tap into your creativity. And if you need any inspiration, go check out Karen's. Just search Karen in the group, and she's posted some really cool stuff. Karen, thank you for joining me this afternoon.
It's my pleasure. I'm glad we got there eventually.
We got there eventually. That's all right. It happens. It's all part of that. It is what it is. Well, thank you for watching today, everybody, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Again, thank you, Karen, and we'll see you online. Bye.
Cheerio.